Welcome, Climate Viewers. This is Jim Lee from ClimateViewer News at ClimateViewer.com. And the question of the day, why is the sky so white? Is your future so bright that you gotta wear shades? This question has come up many times, especially in my live discussions, emails, and I really wanted to address it in detail today because a lot of people are noticing that what we refer to as geoengineering, that some people refer to as chemtrails, which I like to call plane farts. But regardless, one thing that is commonly brought up is that it's so darn bright outside that the sun is getting brighter. Are we all just staying indoors way too much? Or is the sky actually getting whiter? And is that geoengineering? And does that have anything to do with airplanes? We're going to get right into that. Everything that I'm doing, open source, free of charge. You can download this video. You can burn it to a DVD. You can put it wherever you like, free of charge, because sharing is caring. And I'm shadow banned as hard as anyone can be. So by making these videos free and downloadable and Creative Commons, you're free to spread it wherever you like. Just please give a link back to the original source, which is at youtube.com/JimLee-ClimateViewer, or just search for ClimateViewer, all one word, on YouTube. You can find me, and you can support my work by going to connect.climateviewer.com. And there you will find my Patreon, where you can give a monthly donation, or PayPal with a one-time donation. Plus, everywhere that I upload my videos, like YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, and all my social media, like GitHub. Join my Discord chat. Please do all of that. So the reason for this video is because in my last video, which I'll admit was a bore, but that's what you get whenever you listen to a bunch of people from the National Academy of Sciences waxing on reflecting sunlight recommendations for solar geoengineering research and research governance. I had to do it. Originally, I said, I'm going to take this, 1 hour presentation and react to it. So instead of doing that and interrupting it, I wanted to give it in its full context, and all of my reactions are clearly over here in the comment section. So just watch the live replay if you want to see my reactions. But regardless, a great question, like I said, that comes up normally was asked by Lori Bordessa. And she said, nobody can give me a good answer to why the sun is a glare in white. When I was a kid, I always picked the yellow or orange crayons to draw my sun. Why is it white? And why do hardly any people notice? Great question. So I really wanted to answer that question because clearly for Lori, I answered the question. But she's not the only one asking it, and I wanted to really get into the details of it. So we're going to go to weathermodificationhistory.com. Link is already in the details, so you can come follow right along. And there's a post on here called Commercial Aviation Creating Ice Haze and Accidental Geoengineering. Now, this is from December 2015. Adam Spamler in chat saying, and no sundogs as I can remember, or halos. Sundogs, halos, all of those ice formations, those brightening of the sky. That's what we're talking about here. What is causing that? And the answer came in 2015 by a researcher named Charles Long, better known as Chuck Long, from CRES. And we'll get into all of that. It's the Cooperative Institute for Research in Environmental Sciences at the NOAA Earth Systems Research Laboratory. Guy was super famous. very influential scientist, and he kind of blew the lid off this. As you can see in the title, he made no bones about saying evidence of clear sky daylight whitening. Are we already conducting geoengineering? This is not a conspiracy theorist. This is one of the top scientists in the world. Just want to reiterate that. So, YouTube, go ahead and put your little Encyclopedia Britannica or United Nations little bumper sticker underneath this video. 0 F's will be given because everything that I'm about to tell you is referenced fact by credible scientists. And then we're going to speculate. We got to speculate. So in his paper, and I'm just going to read you the short version of this because, some people just don't feel like reading. And I understand that. And in recent clear sky brightening, if the recent clear sky brightening trend were due to cleaner air and fewer aerosols alone, it should be accompanied by an increase in direct downwelling shortwave radiation, one part of solar radiation reaching the surface directly from the sun. William DX, am I the only one who can see the daytime rainbows reflecting off the clouds? I agree with Lori, and I'm 30 years old. Thank you for the super chat. No, you're not. Every time I see the rainbows in the clouds, I stop and I take a picture. It doesn't get old for me. It's very interesting for me. I'm constantly looking up. I take my kids to school in the morning. So, 7:50, I'm in the car every single morning and I'm watching what's happening. Then I'm watching what's happening at noon and then right at night. And it's fascinating to me. I'm always looking up. You're not the only one. Instead, Chuck Long and his colleagues found that the continental United States sites they analyzed, direct downwelling shortwave radiation remained roughly steady between 1995 and 2007 under cloud-free skies. I'm going to reiterate it. Under cloud-free skies. So not the airplane-induced cloudiness, the aviation-induced cloudiness, the artificial clouds that we constantly see farting out the back of these planes and blocking out the sun. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about geoengineering, the kind that they really talk about. Because what we're talking about when we talk about clouds typically happens in the troposphere. It's the lowest part of the atmosphere, which means that it has the lowest residence time. It means that whatever occurs there typically can last from 2 to 4 weeks, as opposed to things that happen in the stratosphere. When you loft chemicals into the stratosphere, they can live there. Their residence time can be 2 to 4 years. So every time you add chemicals to the stratosphere, and especially if they form an ice haze, that is going to build up and build up until you have stopped doing it for 2 to 4 years, as opposed to in the troposphere, 2 to 4 weeks. That's the big difference in geoengineering, is where it occurs, affects how long it lasts, and its effects on the climate. So he goes on to say, rather it was the diffuse shortwave radiation that increased. That simply couldn't happen if fewer aerosols alone were the reason behind the brightening. If anything, fewer aerosols should mean less diffuse shortwave radiation because particles in the atmosphere can bounce light around and back to space. So the scientists dug deeper, and in a provocative new analysis not yet published, Long suggests that high altitude ice haze created by water and other emissions from aircraft is responsible. This is a direct quote. I'm talking about a subvisual contrail generated haze of ice, which we do not classify as a cloud, but gives blue sky more of a whitish tint. Okay? So this is why when you look up in the sky directly overhead, it's somewhat blue. It's not the deep, dark blues that I remember from my childhood. When I was a Boy Scout in the woods every damn weekend, observing nature and the sky, it was a darker, deeper blue. As you look to the horizon today, you will notice that it is almost milk white. That's because there is a longer distance that you're looking through the atmosphere because of the position of the sun and how all of that is lit. So you're going to see more of the atmosphere as you look towards the horizon than you will when you're looking directly overhead. So it's going to be bluer overhead and get whiter as you go to the horizon. This is why. Because, as he puts it, a subvisual just below the visibility, you can't really make it out like a straight line cloud that then fans out and blocks out the sun. We're talking about a subvisual contrail generated haze of ice generated by the jet engines and their contrails and their water vapor and the chemicals in that water vapor that stick and form ice. And that ice builds up in the stratosphere. This is a fact. The finding, if verified, could mean that we are in essence already conducting a geoengineering experiment on the atmosphere, adding ice particles that change the way solar radiation reaches the Earth's surface. Understanding the overall impact of those changes on warming or cooling at the surface will take more research, Long said. Hate to spoil the ending for you, but I just reached out to Chuck Long today. And then I realized why chuck.long@noaa.gov no longer exists. And that's because Charles Nelson Chuck Long passed away on November 21st, 2019. So, taking that as a bit of a shock right now. Sorely disappointed that I never got to speak to this man. I have so many questions for him, especially considering he's the only one who has ever brought this to light and dared call it geoengineering. He died in 2019. But what he did was he brought this to the attention of the world. And I covered this in 2015 extensively. This comes right on the heels of when I went up to the Washington, D.C. EPA hearing on aviation pollution. And I raised hell about it. And I said, you know what? We're more concerned about metals coming out of planes and planes making clouds. Had this been published before I went, because I went in August, this didn't make the news till December, I would have definitely brought this up. So it's not in my EPA speech. But this is even more important. I mean, I agree with everybody. I don't like the planes making clouds. I want to see an end to that. But this is actually evidence of geoengineering on a global scale by aviation, whether intentional or not, whether secret or just public, pollution. Doesn't matter your opinion. This is evidence that shortwave radiation has remained steady as, they put it, atmospheric aerosols, the chemicals that should be, affecting all this, have decreased. So how is that possible? And he explains it with ice haze. Smithsonian Magazine, airplane contrails may be creating accidental geoengineering. BBC News, jet traffic linked to ice haze. That's pretty straightforward, title. But this is directly from the Cooperative Institute for Research in Environmental Sciences at the University of Colorado Boulder. Accidental geoengineering, airline traffic may help create an icy haze that's brightening U.S. skies. December 15, 2015. Now, the original article of this was deleted. I have all of these references down below. And as you can see here, this is the current URL. And right here is the original URL. So you can actually go to web.archive.org and see that as well. Looked a little different, but the article got deleted. And I was able to, dig up the new one. So this is the original one that I read. I haven't really checked it to see, if there's any changes. But regardless, this is where it lives now. So we have it all. We have both links. And of course, it's more of the same. I'm not going to read it to you. All of these references are available at the bottom of the post on weathermodificationhistory.com. They are all in MLA format. If you're in college and you want to talk about this stuff, I already did the work for you. And the PowerPoint presentations I'm about to show you come from the NOAA Earth Systems Research Lab Global Monitoring Annual Conference in 2015 by Chuck Long and his pals at the Pacific Northwest National Lab. And there's other stuff in here too. We're going to go through all that. So, like I said, right here, evidence of clear sky daylight whitening. Are we already conducting geoengineering? PowerPoint presentation here, abstract right here. And this is what the page looks like right here. 2015 NOAA ESRL Global Monitoring Annual Conference, David Skaggs Research Center in Boulder, Colorado. So this is when it happened. This is where it happened. And this is what it looks like. So he has a PowerPoint, and this is where I got the picture from. Gonna get my face out of the way real quick, and that way we can blow it up a little bigger. So here it is. And as you can see, this isn't his first paper on the topic. Back in 2009, he put out a paper called Significant Decadal Brightening of Downwelling Shortwave in the Continental United States in the Journal of Geophysical Res. Anyway, so he'd been working on this for a while and really came to this conclusion around 2015. It was actually originally published in the AGU in fall of 2014, and then it got presented at this conference as well, and that's where this comes from. U.S. sites all sky brightening. This is from the Baseline Surface Radiation Monitoring Network. I can show you these actual sensors on ClimateViewer.org. Not going to bore you with that. If you want to go look it up, Baseline Surface Radiation Network. It's on ClimateViewer.org. You can go see it on ClimateViewer 3D. I mapped all these out. But what they do are they're ground-based sensors that measure how much solar radiation is coming in, so that they can understand the radiation budget of the planet. And that's what he used to figure out that the sky is currently brightening, as he put it. And, this is where he, summarizes everything. U.S. average total shortwave increase of 4.6 watts per meter squared per decade. Direct shortwave radiation shows no trend over the study years. Trend in clear sky total shortwave was virtually all in the diffuse shortwave. This is not what's expected for aerosol direct effect. For decreased aerosols, expect increase in direct shortwave, less attenuation, decrease in diffuse shortwave, less scattering. Total shortwave changes not correlated with aerosol optical depth changes. And exclamation point, because bruh, he's like, what is going on here? This does not make sense. And, a couple charts. We won't get too sciencey for try to keep this simple, stupid. But we'll come on down here. Puzzling. The clear sky total shortwave increased, and documented aerosol optical depths decreased. Link to reference right there. But clear sky direct and diffuse components did not change as expected for direct aerosol effect. All confirmed by more recent studies spanning 1995 to 2010. Another reference. He's like, what the hell is going on here? This is one of the top scientists in the world, okay? Top scientists in the world. Shaking his damn head. Why is the sky blue and a cloud white? Goes into that. Blue light scattered 4 times more than red light. Invisible light scattered about equally because of cloud droplets and larger particles and Rayleigh scattering and molecular scattering. It has to do with the atmosphere and how it all, combines together. But regardless, it's a complicated topic. You really gotta get into, every individual molecule and how its refractive index, its reflective index, all of these sorts of things play into this. But he came to the conclusion that, larger particles scatter more in a forward direction. Molecules scatter equally forward and backwards. So these are the reasons, and he's going into, how all of the different aerosols, affect what type of light is reflected and how it is reflected, whether it's reflected back into space or if it's scattered or if it becomes diffuse, meaning coming from every single direction. So where did the large mode come from? Radiative transfer modeling shows that the hypothesis is feasible for small size ice crystal amounts increasing while aerosol loading is decreasing. Records show that U.S. commercial air traffic increased over the study period. Jet exhaust results in aerosol particles and water vapor, contrails moistening, contrail cirrus haze. Now, I've talked about this for quite some time. Hashtag cirrus clouds matter. Go to climateviewer.com/cirrus clouds matter. CIRRUS. Cirrus clouds matter. Seriously. And that's what he's talking about here. That we talk about, they're just contrails. Well, they're contrails that turn into what? They turn into cirrus clouds. They are persistent contrails. They're persistent spreading contrails. There's cirrus homomutatus. Anyway, there's so many names for the same thing. What's in a name, really? They're plane farts that make clouds, and some of those clouds dissipate into an ice haze that's no longer visible, but it's still there. And it's still just as much of a problem because at that point, it is now actually increasing the diffuse shortwave radiation, which also probably is leading to the increase in UVC that so many people are recording, documenting. I get tales from people in California talking about how the sun feels like it's literally baking your skin off. I have never had a sunburn in my life. I am, probably around 20% Native American. Okay. I go out in the sun, I turn black as soot. It's always been that way. I'm partial red man. This last summer, I went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I literally, it felt like laser beams on my skin. I was blistered from head to toe. This took me as a great shock as a person who has never been sunburned in my entire effing life. So I understand where you're coming from. I get your emails. I read them. I sometimes don't have time to reply to all of them. I got kids, I got a wife, but I'm hearing you. And that's why I'm trying to bring this to your attention today, is that you're not alone. One of the top scientists in the world, now passed away, is straight up telling you right here in this one line: jet exhaust results in aerosol particles and water vapor, which turns into contrails, which adds moistening to the environment, which then turns into contrail cirrus clouds. And that spreads into a cirrus haze or an ice haze, and that haze is what's leading to the brightening. We allow some amount of condensed water in the column still to be traditionally classified as clear sky. So the clear sky brightening result could be due to a whitening of the conditions we classify as cloud-free, indicated in his last paper, Long et al. 2009, by an increase in the clear sky diffuse or over direct shortwave ratio, which is related to the increased atmospheric turbidity. There's a hell of a word for you. How can we further test this whitening hypothesis? And then he goes into, what further studies need to be done. Now, that was the reason why I contacted him today via email, only to find out that he passed away, because I wanted to find the follow-up before I made this video for you, so that I could tie a bow on this, because this is 2015. So we're talking over 7 years ago. And I've only been able to find one paper that even cites the original work that he did, which I find to be highly questionable. So I'm going to look into it further and see what else I can find out. But regardless, I've included all the links on there now. This is his original abstract from that. You can read it if you want to get even more sciencey. I'm not going to get too sciencey in this. I don't want this to be too long of a video. I want to give people a short, answer. But for the lulls, because lulls are necessary at this point, explaining geoengineering to normal people. Now, I just want to let you guys know about this. So, Ken Caldera, geoengineer, okay? Top geoengineer on the planet. Hangs out David Keith, rubbing elbows with Bill Gates. Ken Caldera and David Keith basically got to spend Bill Gates' money, giving it to people to do research on geoengineering from a thing called FICER, the Fund for Innovative Climate Energy Research. And Ken Caldera has to this day the geoengineering Google group. It's groups.google/g/geoengineering. And I was a member of it for about 2 years. Because basically I put up a video of Ken Caldera testifying in front of Congress about geoengineering, but he forgot to tell his group. And somebody found my video on YouTube, posted it there, and then I asked, can I be part of the conversation? And of course, being surrounded by a bunch of PhD holding geoengineers, I held my breath for a while till I felt comfortable, and then I started to engage in the conversation. So from 2012 through 2014, I was adamantly debating the geoengineers themselves, Ken Caldera in particular. And this is one of the posts from Ken Caldera's geoengineering group. And I think it's really relevant to this discussion about what does a milky white sky look like? What does geoengineering look like? This is from January of 2015. I went to the EPA and I spoke in August of 2015. And the paper that we've been talking about this whole time from Chuck Long was published to the mainstream news in December of 2015. All same year. Coincidence? You tell me. Let me know in the comments. But if you never heard of the Darth Vader of chemtrail debunking, Mick West, you have now. Because Mick West was in Ken Caldera's geoengineering group as well. And Andrew Lockley, who is the forum moderator, the guy who eventually kicked me out of the group for saying that they should be tarred and feathered. Funny Asilomar quote. Inside joke, sciencey, nerdy, nerd stuff. But regardless, Andrew's one of the forum moderators. He says, I've been trying to answer some basic questions to a lay inquirer on Twitter. I thought I'd share some of the explanations I've used. I'd really value your comments. Could somebody help me with this? The sky will look hazy white like it's viewed through a jug of water with a teaspoon of milk in it. That was his words. So, of course, Mick West comes back. Mick West, chemtrail debunker from metabunk.org and contrailscience.com, featured on National Geographic and every other chemtrail documentary that ever wants the voice of reason. I debated Mick West. You should watch it. It's on my channel. Debate night, Jim Lee and Mick West on chemtrails and semantics or something like that. And basically this Mick West is sitting there with his jaw wide open the whole time going, this is not what I expected to be debating. And it was pretty damn funny because it was 9 years in the making. Regardless, regarding number one, the sky will look hazy white like it's viewed through a teaspoon of milk. There are a few issues with that. For one, the sky actually does look hazy white a lot of the time and in a lot of directions, most notably horizontal, with there being more atmosphere in the direction, and also in the direction of the sun, there's more light. So for Twitter, I've found using annotated images the best way of getting the point across. For example, and he gives this picture right here. Some proposed methods of SRM geoengineering will look like this. Would add particulates to the atmosphere, scattering more sunlight, making the sky more milky white, like when you would look towards the horizon, but all over. So it'd be less like this and more like this. This is that white stuff that Chuck Long is talking about. This is the ice haze geoengineering that Chuck Long is talking about. This is what is causing whiter, brighter skies. It's already in the picture, Mick. That's what's so funny about all of this. So funny about all this. It's just so much irony in this. And then he does the milk in a jug of water thing. He's like, well, it depends on how much milk and how much water. I mean, you mean this much milk or you mean this much milk? So then they really get into semantics about this. Ken Caldera, chief geoengineer himself, says the sky will not look hazy white. It did not look hazy white after Mount Pinatubo. It is whiter, but still blue. Maybe slightly hazy blue would be more accurate. Talking about if they were to geoengineer. Perhaps simulated before and during, image might work. Here's one barely perceptible whitening. Calculations are actually magnitude change or measurements before and after. Little blue, less blue. And they go back, well, we did calculations of the attached paper. We struggled to illustrate the color change, but came up with no adequate solution. Link to paper right here by Ben Kravitz. And then, other people get in on this, and it's pretty funny. Fred Zimmerman, I thought, was actually the funniest. This is classic Fred. Good science discussion of the issue, but I think the geoengineering community doesn't sufficiently take on board that consciously accepting an alteration in the appearance of the sky is a giant show-stopping roadblock that will inspire ferocious and unending opposition. Round of applause for Fred Zimmerman. Boy, that was a mouthful of words. Let's do that one more time. Good science discussion you guys are having here about how white the sky might be, but I think the geoengineering community doesn't sufficiently take on board that consciously accepting an alteration in the appearance of the sky is a, all caps, giant, show-stopping roadblock that will inspire ferocious, unending opposition. Which is why we're here today. Because there is ferocious, unending opposition. You are it. thank you for caring. Thank you for looking up and noticing that the freaking sky is getting white AF. That it's getting so bright, I can't go outside in my glasses. I need to take my glasses off, put on contacts, and wear shades because it's freaking bright. That Chuck Long was onto this. He said it himself. Are we already conducting geoengineering? Here we have all of these scientists and this chemtrail debunker arguing about, well, you know, how white would it be if we did geoengineer? Maybe like this white? I mean, I'm using Photoshop, but you know, this versus this, I mean, how white would it be? You guys are freaking ridiculous. So I just thought that was funny. So I did include that, by the way. If you go to weathermodificationhistory.com, link already in the details, and you scroll down here to the bottom, you will see explaining geoengineering to normal people. You can read the entire thread yourself. I just think it's freaking hilarious to see these guys debating what we all can see with our own eyes and confirmed by Chuck Long, spread all over the internet, Smithsonian Magazine, BBC, directly from the NOAA Earth Systems Research Lab, CRES Cooperative Institute for Research in the Environmental Sciences, by a guy who was no joke. I mean, this guy, you know, Chuck was the project manager for the World Meteorological Organization's International Baseline Surface Radiation Network, and invited co-author for the WMO Global Energy and Water Cycle Experiment, and appointed member of ARM User Executive Committee, and invited chair of the ARM Instrument and Measurement Focus Group for Broadband Radiometric Measurements. Chuck was awarded the Professor Dr. Vilho Vasaya Award in Atmospheric Sciences by the WMO in 2000 and 2012, a rare two-time accomplishment. He was most proud of developing QC-RAD value-added product and the radiative flux analysis rad flux anal. It says anal. It says anal, everybody. I mean, you see that, right? I'm just saying. This is anal. He was the principal investigator for the ARM Madden-Julian oscillation investigation experiments in Manus and Gann Island. Chuck invented the hemispheric sky imager, which is the prototype for the total sky imager, which is now the most widely used sky imaging system in atmospheric science. He was instrumental in the development of the fast rotating shadow band spectral instrument for retrieving aerosol optical depths on moving ships. Chuck's also developed the concept for the rapid sampling scanning infrared thermometer. And by the way, he enjoyed camping, fishing, and visiting national parks with Sue. Bad joke Wednesdays with his family. He shared his love of meteorology with preschool classes to postdoctorate students. He will be remembered for his sense of humor and kindness, and sorely missed by many. And he's sorely missed by this individual right here, because I would love to dig into his brain about this topic of sky brightening and geoengineering, and why he's the only person on the planet to call it for what it is. And it's a shame that he's passed, and he will be missed. So that being said, you are not the conspiratard for being interested in this topic. It is not your mind playing tricks on you. The sky is getting whiter. They are geoengineering the sky with airplanes. Now, we can debate all day long whether it's just plain exhaust, carbon black dust, and all the metals that are in there, creating, all the clouds that we're seeing in the ice haze, whether in addition to that, the CIA, the government, the Air Force Research Lab, the China Lake, Naval Research Lab, whether the Chinese, Russians, they're doing geoengineering experiments and he caught on to this and that's what we're observing. That is all speculation. What is provable fact is that clouds are being created. You can see this climate change over your head every day. That the sky is getting brighter and will continue to if nothing changes. So those are the facts, and I'm sticking to them. Diane, Renee, hey, Jim, and young people. Jim, a young couple died 5 months apart, and they found high amounts of barium in their blood. Do you think it's the chemicals from the air jets spraying the skies? Diane, thank you for the super chat. Barium is not only in jet fuel, it is in all of the fuel lubricants. There are several different oil substances that are used in the aircraft engines that contain barium. Barium has been found in the exhaust plumes of jet engines, on the ground, on runways. All of this information is available at climateviewer.com/cirrus clouds matter. And I will bring that up real quick for you guys so you guys can see this right here. So if you go to climateviewer.com/cirrus clouds matter and you scroll down, you're going to see a section called Are Cirrus Clouds Filled with Metal? Okay. And if you click on that, you'll see that they are filled with, right here, internally mixed with soot. Did I? No, I didn't put that in there. Why didn't I put that in there? Let's bring that up. I made a whole thing for this. I made a thing for this. I made an infographic for this. I made a video for this. So we should probably talk about that. Anyway, aluminum, barium, calcium, chromium, copper, iron, lead, magnesium, manganese, nickel, niobium, potassium, scandium, selenium, strontium, sulfur, tin, titanium, vanadium, zirconium, and all the other EMs. All of these metals are in the jet fuel. This is Jet A, this is JP5, this is JP8, and as you can see, calcium, Jet A, 555 parts per billion, JP8, 31,000 parts per billion, or 31 parts per million. That's a whole lot of freaking metals. But I did, and let me just real quick, I'll bring this up for you guys to see. YouTube uploads, and it's right here, and I'll bring that over here, and there's your chart. So I made this infographic. Beautiful, I might add, to just exemplify, and I will add this to my stream deck so that I have it on hand at any given time. Everything with a red box on it, those are the metals in jet fuel and its exhaust. Okay? Andy, I see what you're saying. All of these are found in Jet A1. So for the people who want to try to remain sane or ride that debunking line, these are the chemicals, the metals, and I went above and beyond to get references on these and to show what type of metals they are. Okay? So yellow, alkali metals, orange, alkaline earth metals, blue, transition metals. So they are all right here. I made a beautiful chart made by Jim Lee from ClimateViewer.com. Nobody else has done this, but I'm also a graphics artist. So doing things like this, fun for me. Plus, some people learn in different ways. So I wanted to accentuate that. And for Andy B, who is in chat right now. And I don't know if I can bring that up right now. Maybe too late to bring him up. No, already got it cut up. Andy, feel free to say hi. As you can see in this chart, sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium, scandium, titanium, zirconium, vanadium, niobium, chromium, molybdenum, manganese, iron, cobalt, nickel, copper, aluminum, silicon, tin, lead, sulfur, selenium. Okay, well, those over there are nonmetals, sulfur and selenium. So if you want to be particular about it, there you go. But to answer your question from the super chat, could barium, high amounts of barium come from there? Yes. Proving that in a court of law, very tough. It's because barium is so common in different types of pollution. You could live downwind from a paint plant and get high amounts of barium in your blood system. I always try to say, there's a lot of reasons why, you could be poisoned with a chemical. And you can't always just directly say, well, because it's in jet fuel, because it's coming down in the rain, it has to come from this plane. So there's that. Andy, again, see, just the second I turned it off, wrong button. All jet fuel additives, he just got cut off again. Andy, I love you, bro. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. All jet fuels have additives to stop freezing and gross in their fuel tanks. He's talking about biocides. And biocides, basically, for those who don't know, bacteria and other chemicals are biological agents can grow inside the dark, damp wings of the plane. So they put in things like BioBor. These are biocides. They put in anti-freezing agents so that, basically they don't clog up the fuel lines when they're flying into the freaking stratosphere past the tropopause, as so many of these flights do. I've shown this before. I guess it's worth showing again. I've got my NURBS right here where I just go to my ADBS. And you can see how high the planes are flying. And when we look at these and we see planes that are literally flying at 45,000 feet, they're definitely in the stratosphere. So they put these anti-freezing agents in there. I've covered all of the additives as well that are put into jet fuel. So on top of just the fuel itself, then there are additives to it, some of which contain trade secret ingredients, especially when you're talking about the military. The military has this cocktail called the Plus 100 Hits additive, which is Spec Aid 8Q462. Spec Aid 8Q462, and it has 3 different chemicals in it. And of the 3 different chemical cocktails, 2 of which are loaded with trade secret ingredients. They don't even list them in the material safety data sheets. There's a lot of questions to be asked about that. But that being said, I think that we thoroughly covered this topic of sky brightening for today. Its relation to commercial aviation and its potential ramifications for secret geoengineering. Now, like I said, that's all speculation, the secret geoengineering side. According to Chuck Long, jet fuel exhaust is creating contrails cirrus and a subvisual ice haze, which is increasing shortwave diffuse radiation, and that is causing sky brightening. So I hope that this has answered the question for you. Do the further research. Go to weathermodificationhistory.com, read the references yourself, see what else you can find in addition to this. Please send them to me. All you have to do is go over to connect.climateviewer.com. My phone number's on there, my email's on there, all my social media's on there. And while you're there, wouldn't really suck too much if you hit up the Patreon or the PayPal. I greatly appreciate that. But you have your ways to get in touch with me. I'm mostly, if you want to get my attention, pay attention to my email address and what's going on in my Discord chat. So those are the ones I check regularly. If you want to get in touch with me, please do. I would greatly appreciate it. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to ask any further questions from Chuck Long. But that does not mean that the hunt for the truth will not continue. I am always open to new material as it's presented, and I will always willingly accept that I am a flawed human and could be wrong. But based on all of the evidence that I've gathered over the last decade, this is the truth as best I can tell it, and I've been glad to share this with you today. So, with information comes power, and with power comes great responsibility. So please use this information to attack ideas, not people. And knowing is half the battle.